up, everybody? Welcome to the newest episode of The Debate Mates. I'm Matthew, and I'm here joined by Jackson Cashwell. And we got a lot to talk about today. We got trades happening, free agency started. So very busy time to be an NBA fan, a lot going on, and we're getting prepared for our season in, I guess, about a month.
Yeah,
A little bit less than a month, perhaps. Not quite sure what the date is, but December 22nd is the start date, so about a month left, and we're still got a lot of players relocating and a team relocating.
Yeah.
So a lot to discuss. Like I said, remember to follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, like, share, subscribe, and we're getting close to 200. We're getting kind of close to 200 subscribers. We're at 120, and last video we promised something huge for 200 subscribers, and of course that promise we're gonna keep it. So make sure we get there. You'll be seeing a lot of familiar faces when we do. Coach Z, Stretch, Jack, of course, Nate, me. We'll all be coming along to do something special. Possibly another IRL basketball thing.
Perhaps.
Coach Z versus Stretch. I bet a lot of the fans would love to see that. So anyways, let's get right into it with your favorite player, Klay Thompson. Start with the Warriors.
Pain. So Klay Thompson is out probably for the year with an Achilles tear.
Torn Achilles, yep. Coming off of a torn ACL.
I'm glad at least that it's... there are two ways to look at it. On one hand, both his legs are messed up now.
Yeah.
On the other hand, at least he didn't re-injure the same one.
Right.
So it's like this could be a good thing or a bad... Well, it's not a good thing, but this could be
It's not
a lot worse.
Well, could it be?
I don't know. My boy Klay?
This
out
is-
for another year?
This is really bad. This is
heartbreaking.
a worst time to be a Warriors
I'm
fan.
not even a Warriors fan, but I'm a Klay Thompson
any
fan.
NBA fan, I think, really saw this news and was like, "Oh, you serious?"
You can't hate Klay.
And everybody wants to watch Steph and Klay again.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
most people don't want them to win a championship, but I think a lot of people were hoping to see them play the Lakers on Christmas Day. Now that's up in the air. And I saw something tweeted, does this hurt Klay Thompson's Hall of Fame chances now? I think he's a lock, in my opinion.
Oh, he's a lock. He's
got the championships, the All-Star games, the defensive, all defensive nods. So I think he's a lock, but it's going to hurt his legacy down the line.
Especially because he's getting older. He's 30, 31.
Getting
And
into
Klay
his
is
30s.
Steph's 32 or 33. So they're going to be, in their early to mid 30s by the time that they're actually able to play again. It's like, this is probably the beginning of the end for the Warriors dynasty.
Yeah, they got Kelly Oubre in a trade from the Thunder.
Right, that's a good pickup.
Got James Wiseman out of the draft at the number 2 overall pick. Were you a little, I know you're not a Warriors fan, but you kind of have a bias towards them with Klay.
Yeah.
You want to see them win a little bit.
Right.
So were you kind of like, what are you thinking drafting James Wiseman? Did you want them to trade that to
No, I think it was a solid pick. Because Miles Turner's, he's not going to put Golden State over the hump over a team like LA.
But a rookie is?
Well, a rookie for the future, yeah, maybe.
Well, I guess
Because at least that's a long-term benefit. Whereas with Miles Turner, it's like, he's not incredibly young at this point. He's not as young as a rookie, and it's not like he's going to stop AD,
I guess if Klay Thompson were healthy when they made this pick, I would have wanted them to trade it because they would have been contending this year. And you're going to need a Miles Turner or someone like that to at least give you a chance at defending an Anthony Davis type of guy. Not saying he can defend him, but he's going to do a lot better than James Wiseman.
Yeah.
One thing that's good with the Warriors dynasty over the past few years is if you look at their rosters, it's always the center has been their weakest spot.
Right, yeah.
Bogut was a solid player, a great player for a championship team. So I think Wiseman could potentially replicate that, at least on the offensive end, just being a good passer, being a rim runner. Maybe be like a JaVale McGee, who was another guy that they threw in there at the 5. And Kelly Oubre Jr., I don't really understand because he's kind of Andrew Wiggins. They're both
kind of
not
I don't know.
good at shooting.
It's an okay pickup to fill in that 2 spot, I guess. It's not an incredible pickup, but he's not Klay Thompson.
I mean, at this point,
solid.
I would trade Wiggins. Look into trading Wiggins and maybe getting a shooting guard back because I think Oubre should be a small forward. He's a better defender, especially with Klay out.
Yeah, I guess. Or you could even get rid of just trade Oubre.
Right, trade him again.
And trade him again and keep Wiggins up there. I mean, Wiggins is a better player than Kelly Oubre.
I think for the Warriors, though, they would rather have a defender, especially with Klay out.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's fair.
They're not going to be able to stop anybody.
Then I just wonder who would be someone good to put up the 2. It's got to be someone who can shoot.
Yeah, this would be a time where I bet a good time they wish they had D'Angelo Russell still.
Yeah, he could be a good spot to fill that, at least for some scoring, so it doesn't all have to lay on Steph.
Other than that, I mean, I don't really see what they're going to get for Andrew Wiggins.
Nobody wants Andrew Wiggins except the Knicks, maybe.
The Knicks perhaps.
Who do the Knicks
Warriors
have?
want from the Knicks? I do think this year.
Bobby Portis.
Bobby Portis signed with the Bucks right before we started
did.
recording.
Oh no, never mind. They don't even have him.
So I think this year is going to speak volumes to Curry's legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they miss the playoffs again, you're going to start to. Well, I know last year he was out most of the year.
Right. Last year he was injured, but if this year they missed the playoffs, it's like this is a playoff team.
Yeah.
Curry, Oubre, Wiggins,
Draymond
and Wiseman. I mean, their bench, they completely obliterated their bench over the past couple of seasons. But other than that, I mean, at least in terms of the starting five, that's the 6th seed, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, the West is going to be very difficult next year because you've got Mavericks, Clippers, Lakers, etc.
Yeah, but you got to think too. Like now, the Thunder are not a playoff team, and the Rockets are not a playoff team.
Yeah.
So.
But the Grizzlies might slip in there. The Suns probably going to be.
Suns are going to be.
The Blazers are going to be in contention again.
Blazers aren't going to be as good as the Warriors.
I mean, if Steph's going to need to have another MVP year.
I don't think he's going to win MVP, but I think he needs to average like 30.
But if he puts up like 22 and they don't make the playoffs, I definitely think it will hurt his resume because right now people have him and KD kind of neck and neck when you're talking all time, like 12, 13. I think KD gets the edge, definitely.
Well, I mean, I think Clay gets the edge over either.
Because when Westbrook was injured, KD won his MVP. They were like the 3 seed in one of the tougher conferences.
Right. To be fair, I think Steph is coming out of his prime now. He's still in his prime, but I think probably
he's
in the next few seasons you'll see him start scoring under like 25 and stuff like that.
Yeah. So moving on to the team that Kelly Oubre came from, and we're not talking about the Suns because he got traded to the Thunder first. Let's move on to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who kind of.
They kind of blew it up.
Yeah.
Like, they're in a total rebuild, which I don't think is a terrible idea. Because they've got so many picks. They've close to like 12 picks in the last 6 years.
I gotta say something. So, I don't understand. Like, at first, if this video was like 3 or 4 days ago, I would have been like, oh my gosh, Sam Presti's a genius. They have like a million picks now.
And they still got a solid lineup.
And they have Kelly Oubre Jr. to pair with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Steven Adams. I didn't expect them to re-sign Danilo Gallinari. He left for the Hawks. We'll talk more about that in a bit. But then...
They got rid of Steven Adams.
They trade Steven Adams. They trade Kelly Oubre. If I'm Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I think he's 22.
Yeah.
Why in the world would I want to stay for 4 or 5 more years and just wait for a bunch of draft picks that may or may not turn out to be anything
Especially
good?
when he's not like a first option player.
Yeah.
He's not even a second option player.
And
I mean maybe.
The picks could turn into KD, Westbrook, and Harden again. Or they could turn into a bunch of Greg Odens and a couple of role players.
Right, yeah. The picks are a great idea if you keep Steven Adams.
And Kelly Oubre.
Yeah.
I mean, if they keep Kelly Oubre, they have Steven Adams, and they have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander going into the future, we're talking about them as one of the better teams in the next couple of years. Mm-hmm. I mean, that potential is still there with all the picks. I'm just surprised
they got rid of Steven Adams. Even getting rid of Chris Paul, I wasn't super surprised. But getting rid of Steven Adams, I mean, why?
And I mean, they did fine in the CP3 trade. It's just then they gave up their main asset.
Yeah, I mean, you have enough picks already. I mean, they traded Steven Adams for, picks.
Yeah.
You have enough.
It doesn't make sense.
I don't understand, the odds of a pick turning into a star are really low. But if you've got, 15 picks, what's the point giving 3 more? At least one of them's bound to turn into a decent player. You know?
Yeah.
What do you think you're going to give this 3 extra picks?
I mean, we're talking about a team whose second best player right now is probably Luke Dort.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Dort
had a good game 7, but...
He averaged 6 points a game in the regular season.
If I'm Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you might as well trade me too. I'm not going to waste my prime winning 20 games.
Winning 20 games and scoring 23 a night.
And waiting for the next George Hill type, Eric Bledsoe type player to come in and be a decent role player for me. I'm just reading names off the paper. I couldn't think of anybody else.
Right, yeah. They got Trevor Ariza.
Yeah.
Fantastic pickup. Good job, guys.
Yeah, I just wrote gain Trevor Ariza and a lot of picks.
Just a lot. Indescribable amount of picks.
A multitude.
Yeah, well, I would have said that was a genius move on their part, but after they got rid of Steven Adams, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I mean, Steven Adams, even if he's not a great player, he's still a good locker room guy. Everybody loves him. He's probably the second most, you could argue he's the most liked player in Thunder history, I think.
That's probably true.
Up there with Westbrook.
Westbrook? By the fans, maybe.
Yeah.
By the fans. I was going to say by the league, no way.
By the league, he's definitely number 1, I think. Everybody loves Aquaman.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he didn't have a great playoffs, but still, he's got value.
Yeah.
I think you should have kept him. Him, Oubre, Shai would have been a phenomenal big 3 in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
2 17-plus points per game nights. A center that's not going to need shots we're talking probably a 7 seed this year, I think, if they hold on to that. And most of their picks aren't even theirs, so why do they care if they're bad? They're getting these picks from the Clippers and the Rockets. As long as they're bad, they still get solid picks.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they want to have 22 first-round picks.
They want to have more.
Yeah. I think Presti's starting to get a little bit too greedy.
I think he just like he made a bold decision with like the Paul George trade.
Yeah.
And it worked, and everyone's like, he's a genius. And I was just like, I'm just gonna subvert expectations and do the opposite of what everyone thinks to prove I'm a super genius. And then it just blew up in his face.
Yeah. And I'll move on to the team that Steven Adams got traded to, the New Orleans Pelicans, who traded away Drew Holiday, and Derek Favors didn't get traded away, but he signed with the Jazz. And they've gained Steven Adams, Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, 3 first-round picks, and 2 pick swaps. Both of those picks coming from, or all 5 of those picks, coming from the Bucks. So I'm going to start. I think this was a highway robbery for the Pelicans.
You think they got robbed, or that they robbed?
think they robbed.
I
the Bucks.
agree.
I think they won.
I think this was a good trade.
I think they won free agency so far.
Yeah,
Still a lot to
they
happen.
lost Drew Holiday, but they got Eric Bledsoe, who is just a slightly downgraded version of the same player.
Yep.
Really. Derek Favors they got rid of.
Upgraded him.
Upgraded to Steven Adams.
Yeah.
They got George Hill, who's a solid guy, and they got 5 picks.
Yeah,
That's a solid.
They dominated.
Yeah, and Steven Adams too, like an experienced big man like that, who's still, he's not really a veteran in the way like Derek Favors is, but he can bring more experience to guys in their lineup like Jackson Hayes.
Yeah.
Who could use that opportunity and that experience. So I see this as a win for the
They
Pelicans.
still hold on to their young nucleus of Lonzo,
Ingram,
Zion, Brandon Ingram, and they just improved the spots around them other than Drew Holiday.
Right.
But if Drew Holiday wants to be an offensive centerpiece, that he's not going to fit with a team where Brandon Ingram and Zion are going to be the
main scorers. Yeah.
And you don't really need another defensive backcourt guy with Lonzo, because he's a great defender as well, good length.
But Eric Bledsoe's a solid defender.
Yeah, so they got Lonzo, Bledsoe. I don't know if they'd be able to start together. Neither of them are very good shooters. But you've got Lonzo, Bledsoe, Ingram, Zion, and Steven Adams. We're talking about the Warriors as a playoff team. This is looking like a playoff team.
Yeah, it could be a playoff team. I could see them slipping into like a 7th or 6th seed maybe.
Yeah, plus if they keep J.J. Redick coming off the bench with George Hill.
You could even put
Jackson Hayes,
even put J.J. with Lonzo and then put Bledsoe off the bench.
Yeah, and then whenever you're playing like a team with a really good backcourt, you just slip Bledsoe
in for the defense, yeah. Because they don't have any shooting in that lineup besides.
Yeah.
I guess Ingram can sort of shoot, but Lonzo's becoming a decent shooter. But
the only problem I see with them is spacing, and I think when you've got talented guys like Zion and Ingram, that kind of isn't a problem for them.
Right, yeah.
This is what the Thunder should have done.
Mm-hmm.
They still have their good players. They still got picks.
Right, they did what the Thunder should have done. The Thunder got rid of their core.
Thunder should have stopped after Chris Paul.
Right, they got rid of their core in exchange for picks and Trevor Ariza, whereas the Pelicans kept their core together, got some solid role players, and
retained their picks.
Right.
So the Pelicans just did what the Thunder did, just a lot better.
Right. Yeah.
My winner of free agency playoff, or not free agency and trades so far by far.
Probably the Pelicans. Yeah.
Moving on to another Western Conference team. We can go to LA and then we'll go out to Houston. We got the Clippers, who seem to have taken a pretty big step back, losing Landry Shamet, Montrezl Harrell, and JaMychal Green. And they've gained Luke Kennard, and they re-signed Marcus Morris, and they're still trying to get a point guard. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the Clippers?
I thought the Clippers were going to try and go all in for Chris Paul, to be honest. Because Chris Paul I think he'd be a solid fit for them.
Yeah.
Or some point guard. They even could have gone for Rondo or something,
Well, Rondo's still up in the air.
I guess so, but they haven't gotten him yet. Getting rid of Shamet, whatever. Getting rid of Montrezl Harrell is like, What was his contract looking like with the Clippers? Big, yeah, that's what I was thinking, big. The Lakers got him on like a really good deal.
Yeah.
They got him on a really small contract for what he's worth, so I don't know. I guess they needed to get rid of either Lou Will or Montrezl Harrell if they want to sign another big piece.
But when you're looking for, when you're Montrezl Harrell and you're leaving the Clippers, it's not like you're leaving for a better city. You're not leaving
he just wants to win.
He just wants. That's a slap in the face to the Clippers. It's not even like he wants to live.
I don't think anyone.
I
even had the Clippers as my pick when we did our predictions video for the season as pick to win the championship.
Yeah, so
look at him now. That team just completely failed.
Explode. I do think Luke Kennard is an underrated pickup. He can kind of run the point for them. He can distribute.
Yeah, he's not worth Montrezl Harrell though. And they kept Marcus Morris, but it's like whatever.
And Marcus Morris, they signed him to a massive contract, 4 years, $64 million.
He's not worth that much.
He's not worth that much at all. I can't imagine he had other teams banging on the door offering him.
The fact is, they got rid of Harrell's contract, but now Harrell's making less than $10 million a year with the Lakers, and now they've got Marcus Morris making $60 million a year.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense at all what they're worth.
And then they re-signed Patrick Patterson as well to a smaller contract, and maybe they can get an Avery Bradley, something like that, off the bench.
I don't see the point. I could see the Clippers going down as one of those, like, what season was it with the Lakers? Was it 2010 when they had Steve Nash, Kobe, Pau Gasol, and like Dwight,
and they were horrible.
And they won like 48 games and got knocked out in like the first or second round or something like that. Yeah, I could see the Clippers going down as that type of team.
Yeah, I don't understand how it just blew up so much, and they're looking at losing.
I thought they should
PG after this.
Yeah, I thought that they should just run it back. Maybe you just needed more time to gel. PG was out. PG had a bad playoffs. I think he gets a little bit more hate than he deserves. I think he'll do better next season. But like, I thought their best bet was to just run it back, and if it doesn't work, then blow it up. But it's like they already seem like they're kind of blowing it up. They're in the process of it. I could see Kawhi and or PG getting traded next season.
I mean, or just walking.
Yeah, or just walking. I mean, I'm not really sure when their contracts expire, but
I do think Luke Kennard's a good pickup, but that doesn't make him a championship team.
No, Luke Kennard never put anyone over the hump.
If you got Luke Kennard to last year's roster, that's not the reason they're not going to blow a 3-1 lead.
Right. Yeah.
So that, I guess, it's a bit of a good move for me, but still doesn't really change a whole lot.
I don't know. I think in terms of the contract, I guess they got rid of a high contract player,
but then signed Marcus Morris to a pretty high contract.
Yeah, they signed Marcus Morris to a really high contract. That, and I think that they should have gotten rid of Lou Will.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see them slide out of the playoffs by any means, but...
No, but they're not going to be...
they're going to have a really bad first-round matchup, I think. Mm-hmm. Moving on to the Lakers, who lost Dwight Howard, who tweeted, "Purple and gold is never old," deleted the tweet, and then signed with Philadelphia.
What is he thinking?
And they lost Danny Green, and they continued to just destroy the rest of the league as they got Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell, and Wesley Matthews. Just as long as they re-signed Anthony Davis, everything was looking good going into next year.
Yeah. If there was one team that could contend with the Pelicans for the biggest winner in the offseason, I'd say it's the Lakers. Easily, yeah. Because Dennis Schroeder is a guy that you could have run the point if Rondo walks.
Yeah.
You could have him run the point. Montrezl Harrell you can put next to AD. I'm honestly not even sure who I would put at the 5. I mean, AD's bigger, but I know that AD doesn't like playing the center.
Or you can still have JaVale McGee in there as a 5 and have Montrezl continue. I mean, imagine
continue being a bench.
If you have Dennis Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell going off the bench, no matter who the other 3 guys are, that's immediately the best bench in the NBA, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know who you would have run the point then, unless they want LeBron.
LeBron, KCP, Kuzma, AD. JaVale's a pretty solid starting 5.
Assuming they can have LeBron run the point.
KCP.
Yeah, and then off the bench, Schroeder, Wesley Matthews, and Harrell. That's a solid bench.
That's a really good 8
Not to mention, these guys are taking like massive pay cuts to play with the Lakers.
Not to mention, they re-signed Jared Dudley.
The GOAT, yeah.
Unfortunately, they cut Quinn Cook.
Sadly, Quinn Cook, after he got left by the bus.
I know, poor Quinn Cook. He's throwing around.
I do think like they got an absolute steal here. Dennis Schroeder, obviously a great, probably deserving of 6 Man of the Year. And then they got the guy who won 6 Man of the Year.
Yeah,
so they got
the 2 top Williams and maybe Jamal Crawford. Then they'll have the best 6 man ever.
I mean, they lost Dwight. I don't really know what Dwight was thinking. I guess he figured I got my ring. Now I'm gonna go chase a higher contract. But it's like they don't need you in Philly, dude. They already got Embiid. So I don't really know what his thought process was there.
I guess just come off the bench.
I guess getting rid of Danny. Plus, he left LA for Philly.
Yeah,
like you in LA, man.
And there was one thing we forgot to mention with the Thunder. They did get in the trade for Danny Green because they got Danny Green for a bit from the Lakers for Dennis.
And then they got rid of him.
Then they flipped him for Al Horford. Forgot to mention that.
Right.
So their second player is now Al Horford. Big contract. Moving on back to the Lakers.
Yeah. So I mean, they got rid of Danny Green, which I mean we all knew was coming.
Yeah.
And they got a bargain out of it. They've got Wesley Matthews, a dude who's worth maybe you could argue Wesley Matthews is worth maybe close to $10 million a year. They got him signing for like less than 5.
Yeah. I mean they're immediately placed back up as
they got to be
they're favorites. I mean they were already, but now they're even better.
And Montrezl Harrell, a guy who's worth maybe $15 to $20 million a year, and he's re-signing. He signed with them for 2 years, $19 million. He signed for $9.5 million a year.
I mean, unless the Nets somehow get Harden or the Bucks work together really well, this is the team we're going to see win the championship.
Nets with Harden even I think would be a bad fit, but we'll get to that.
So Lakers look pretty good going into next year. Still moves to be made possibly. They want to sign Tristan Thompson, also looking into signing Serge Ibaka. But at this point with Montrez,
I feel like it's
JaVale McGee's a pretty good center for a ring runner. So we'll move on to the Rockets now.
Yeah, so they lost Robert Covington. They're most likely going to lose James Harden. They're most likely going to lose Westbrook. So this is an absolute rebuild.
PJ Tucker, Daniel House, and Eric Gordon are all pretty mad as well.
Man, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to. Imagine Eric Gordon being your best player.
Well, I mean, they did gain Christian Wood, who I think is becoming one of the more overrated players because everyone is like...
Because everyone says he's underrated.
Yeah.
To the point where he's overrated.
Honestly, I don't really remember. I guess because he kind of didn't start to show up until after right before the quarantine.
Right, yeah.
So, I just don't remember him as well. Maybe he's really good, but he has future All-Star potential, I think, and he fits well with the Rockets. They're already starting to look to change their culture with a signing like that.
I just wonder, like, what do they think they're going to get back for Harden and Westbrook? Because Westbrook's trade value is going to be down. Who wants Westbrook?
Well, Drew Holiday got, what did he get, 5 picks, Eric Bledsoe and George Hill. What is that? What is James? Oh, he got 5 picks.
5 picks, yeah. I mean,
you're going to have to trade the rest of the Nets roster for James Harden because he's a lot better than Drew Holiday.
They might want Kyrie for Harden.
Holiday's a fringe 40 player. James Harden is a top 7 or 8. And you got 5 picks for
Holiday,
a fringe 40
player. That's a hot take, but...
Fringe 30, 35 to 40, I think.
Yeah, all right. I mean, Harden, they might want Kyrie for Harden. Unless you give him a deal like Dinwiddie, LeVert. Who else could you throw in there?
Jared Allen.
Yeah, Jared Allen.
Picks. I mean, they re-signed Joe Harris, so you're probably not trading him.
Right. I don't see that as a even trade for him.
I say let's make it happen somehow, some way. They make the finals easily, I think.
Nah, they got too many egos on that roster.
I don't
3
think
guys
so.
who want to be the main scorer. I can't see Harden taking a step back and being like a...
But no one would be able to score with them.
Wait,
not a single team would be able to put up the same numbers they would.
I don't know. I feel like people thought the same thing when you had Westbrook with PG and Carmelo, you know?
Westbrook, PG, Carmelo is very different than KD, Harden, and Kyrie.
I get that, but I mean... KD, you never know, could be injury prone. Kyrie could be. But even if they're all healthy, who's going to be the third option on that team? I mean, Kyrie?
Yeah, I say make it happen.
Kyrie is the third. Kyrie would never want to be a third option. Kyrie's hardly willing to be the second option. He left Cleveland because he hated being second.
Let's make it happen, see what happens.
I mean, it'd be interesting. I just don't think that...
The only thing that I wouldn't like about it is I want Kevin Durant to win the MVP, and if he has Harden, he's not even going to finish top 5, probably not even top 6 or 7.
Yeah.
It would be crazy for them to get Harden. What do you think they can get for Westbrook, though? And how would you like it if he gets traded to the Magic, which is a rumor that's buzzing?
Just don't. I'm a Magic fan. Please, we don't want Westbrook.
Well, I mean, now that you lost DJ Augustine, you might need Westbrook.
I don't want Westbrook.
It's pretty good.
I don't want him. I don't care if he gets his 45 wins in an 8 seed. We get that every year anyway.
I want him to go to the Knicks, and then I want him to play.
Sure, he can go to the
Kevin
Knicks.
Durant in the first round. Knicks versus Nets.
No way the Knicks are making the playoffs, even with Westbrook.
I think they could win 40 games.
Maybe.
They could win
maybe in the
38
East, but the East is getting more competitive.
Not the 7 and 8.
I guess not. I don't know. I mean, maybe. That could be cool to see him play KD, but... I don't know what to say. I mean, like, that would be such a bad... the Knicks would give up their whole young core for...
The Knicks would give everything up for Russell Westbrook.
They just want people to watch their games again.
Yeah. And moving on to another team that looks like they're going to make the playoffs next year, the Phoenix Suns, who lost Kelly Oubre, Ty Jerome, most likely Aaron Baines, and drafted my guy from Maryland with the 10th overall pick, Jalen Smith, and the point guard, Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm.
How are we feeling about the Suns' chances going into next year?
It's a win. They definitely won this, the deals that they made.
Yeah.
They lost Kelly Oubre. Whatever, you got Chris Paul.
You got him to model your Suns jerseys, and then you shipped them off.
Right, yeah. I mean, Chris Paul, obviously better than Kelly Oubre.
Yes.
Jalen Smith, solid pick.
Mm-hmm.
It was a top 10 pick. And you got rid of Ty Jerome.
Fit well with Cam Johnson.
The GOAT, yeah. And you most likely get rid of Aaron Baines. Whatever. You got Chris Paul.
Yeah.
You got someone to put next to Devin Booker. So that's an incentive to keep Devin Booker.
Yep.
Because he's got, at least doesn't feel like the whole burden of that team is on him now. He's got another all-star level player.
And I mean, when they went 8-0, Kelly Oubre was injured. So you're not...
Yeah, so it's like you don't really need him.
You got Mikal Bridges in there as your defensive stopper at small forward.
They kept Ayton.
Kept DeAndre Ayton.
Still got a solid
Then you'll
center.
probably have Cam Johnson in that power forward still, or Jalen Smith in that power
Floor
forward.
stretching, yeah. And then you've got Chris Paul who can help stretch the floor as well, and Devin Booker. So, I mean, you've got a lot of scores, you've got some solid big men, and you've got, some decent defensive players.
I mean, realistically, though, I don't think they go any higher than the 6th seed.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, 5th or 6th tops. Odds are they finish somewhere near the bottom of the
I think
playoff.
they could get a better record than the Clippers, I think, this year, perhaps.
Maybe. I think the two will be kind of on the same level.
They could go 6, 7, 8. I think
Yeah.
because you're not
I think teams like the Grizzlies, Warriors, Suns, and Clippers are all kind of going to be in the same category.
Yeah. So I think they'll definitely slip in there. There'll be a matchup nightmare for whoever they do face in the playoffs, though.
Yeah.
For sure. Moving on to the Eastern Conference. Well, actually, real quick, let's go through some of the smaller deals. I'll just read them off to you. The Grizzlies lost Josh Jackson, and they got Mario Hezonja. The Timberwolves lost the 17th overall pick, and they got Anthony Edwards with the number 1 pick in the draft, and they re-signed Malik Beasley. The Blazers lost Trevor Ariza, who also didn't play in the bubble, and they gained Robert Covington. They re-signed Rodney Hood. They got Enes Kanter, and from a Celtics fan, you got a good one. I'm gonna miss him. And they signed Derrick Jones Jr., and they still are hoping to re-sign Melo. I think this puts the Blazers ahead of the Suns with Rocco. I really like him, and I think Enes Kanter
I think that's a good pickup. For
is an upgrade over Hassan coming off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
The Kings lost Terry Gosling most likely. They most likely are going to lose Buddy Hield. And then Bogdan Bogdanovic, which we'll get into a bit later.
Right.
Kind of a weird situation going on there with the signing trade that he never agreed to. They extended De'Aaron Fox to a 5-year max.
Mm-hmm.
The Spurs just gained Drew Eubanks, or they re-signed Drew Eubanks and Jakob Poeltl. And the Jazz gained Jordan Clarkson, or re-signed him, and they got Derek Favors back. They lost him last year to the Pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
Now he is a member of the Jazz once again. Eastern Conference time. Starting with the Pistons.
All right, so they lost Christian Wood, they lost Luke Kennard, and they lost Tony Snell. They go to Tony Snell. They gained Jeremy Grant for a pretty expensive contract.
Yep.
They got Mason Plumlee for a also fairly expensive contract for what he's worth. They got Dwayne Dedman, Josh Jackson, Jahlil Okafor, and
Killian Hayes.
who I've never even heard of. So, Christian Wood and Luke Kennard are solid. Tony Snell is, he's Tony Snell.
He's Tony Snell.
They got Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant's a good player.
I think that's a big L for the Nuggets, so I actually do think I forgot to read off of their moves. They got they lost Jeremy Grant and got JaMychal Green.
Right, I'd say that's an L for the Nuggets.
And then let me read off the Mavericks real quick while we're in the Western Conference. They lost Seth Curry and DeLon Wright. They got Josh Richardson. They re-signed Trey Burke, and they got James Johnson. All right, back to the.
So, the Pistons is like, who cares? You're the Pistons.
I mean,
I don't know.
What are they gonna do with all these centers?
I know
Blake Griffin.
they've got Blake Griffin on. No, they don't have Andre Drummond. That was almost a major gaffe. They have a lot of big men now. They've got Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee. They got Jahlil Okafor,
Dwayne
Dedman. They got Blake Griffin. Like a third of your lineup are centers.
And they got Derek. And Derrick Rose, Killian Hayes are like the only 2 guards.
Guards, yeah.
I mean, there's not much to talk about there. I just wanted to mention them because I thought it's funny that they're
they're
opposite of the Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be able to contend well when Bobo gets out with the Nuggets.
Yeah.
So, moving on to teams that might actually be able to contend this year.
Got the Bucks.
The Bucks and the 76ers. The Bucks lost Ersan Ilyasova, who was in the trade for Bogdan Bogdanovic, which eventually fell apart.
Right.
So I guess now that trade is definitely not happening because they waived him.
Mm-hmm.
They lost Wes Matthews. They lost Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, and those 5 picks all in the Holiday deal. And they gained Drew Holiday. Re-signed Pat Connaughton. And at this point, it looks like Bogdan Bogdanovic is long gone. So
Right. I mean, if they managed to get Bogdanovic, I'd say that this was a win. Otherwise, I'd say this was an L.
even though they got Holiday.
Yes. Because you lost... What they need is floor spacing.
Yeah.
Because they need guys that can play in the half court. Because that's what messes them up in the playoffs every year. They're a great, full court team. But that's not how the playoffs work. So...
And they lost 2 of their best shooters in Matthews and Bledsoe.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that
Matthews
they kept...
George Hill.
Yeah, I'm glad that they kept Giannis and Middleton together. And they did get rid of Matthews, which is, I think, a decent blow to them because they need shooters. Eric Bledsoe can't shoot, so whatever.
Yeah.
And they got Drew Holiday, who's overrated, but he's a better version of Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah.
The same type of player.
I don't know if he's a consistent third option though when the playoffs start.
Yeah, maybe not. And that's why I was going to say, like, I think Bogdanovich is better than Wesley Matthews. So I was going to say, I think that would be a good trade if they get Bogdanovich, but it's looking less and less likely now. So I'd say overall, it's not a huge L, but I say it is a little bit of an L. I still see them finishing somewhere near the top of the East, though.
Yeah, and they'll probably still be a second round to third round exit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to win 60 games. Well, I guess not this year because 72 games are being played. They'll win 55 games, probably lose maybe between 10 and 17, I would assume.
Yeah.
They're going to be really good.
They're just not a playoff. They're not built for the playoffs.
I still don't think they're built for the playoffs. And you mortgaged your whole future for, again, a borderline top, in my opinion, 40 to 35 player.
Right.
I mean, I guess if Giannis leaves, you're doomed anyway, no matter how many picks you have, even if you are the Oklahoma City Thunder. Mm-hmm. But now you're just worse. Just worse off.
Yeah, they're worse off than they were last year, I think.
Yeah, so moving on to the Philadelphia 76ers. This is the last team we're going to talk about. They got Dwight Howard, Danny Green, and Seth Curry, and they lost Josh Richardson and Al Horford. And they're still maybe trying to get a trade for James Harden put together.
I have mixed feelings on this. On one hand, I mean, you lost Josh Richardson. He's solid, but I don't think he was really great for them.
Yep.
Al Horford had a really big contract, and he was not producing for them. So that's good that they got him.
Great.
They got, Dwight Howard, solid backup center.
Yep.
They got Danny Green, who
doesn't deserve a lot of the hate.
He is a solid floor spacer. He didn't shoot well in the playoffs. And Seth Curry is another floor spacer, too. So you got shooters to surround guys like Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid.
Daryl Morey is already doing damage in Philadelphia.
Right, yeah.
He's come in and he's implemented his style, and so far it looks like it might pay off.
And if they get Harden, I think Harden's a better fit for them than the Nets.
I would agree, but I mean,
better fit.
Even if they don't get Harden, this is still
an upgrade.
This is still maybe a top 3 team.
Yeah,
in the Eastern
top
Conference,
4 or 5, I'd say. But yeah, I mean,
up there with the Bucks and the Nets, maybe Celtics ahead of them.
I don't know. I put the Celtics ahead of them maybe a little bit, but maybe even the Raptors.
Heat. Can't forget about the Heat.
Oh, true, the Heat. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I'd say this was a little bit of a win for them, and if they get Harden, this is a huge win for them.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward. They're going to be pretty good again next year. Josh Richardson's not a huge loss. I think he fits better with the Mavericks than he did with the 76ers. I mean, this is another team that's going to win 55-ish games, be up there with the Bucks, I think. And just as long as they don't implode in the playoffs, as long as they stay healthy.
Right.
They're built for the playoffs much better than the Bucks are with the shooting they have.
Yeah, I'd agree.
If only the Bucks were able to get Danny Green and Seth Curry.
Yeah, they could. They need shooters.
So let's just read. Or you can read through.
You can read through the remaining trades. The Atlanta Hawks lost Dwayne Dedman. They got
Onyeka Okongwu.
Thank you.
With the 6th
They got Danilo Gallinari for a mighty expensive contract.
$20 million a year.
Yeah, a little over 20 million.
years.
Yeah, Tony Snell. They got Chris Dunn. They hope to sign Bogdan Bogdanović, extend John Collins, and sign Rajon Rondo. So. The Boston Celtics, they lost Enes Kanter. That sucks. They lost Vincent Poirier, and they're likely going to lose Gordon Hayward, which I think is fine. I mean,
you'd rather keep him, but
I'd rather keep him, but he has a bit of an expensive contract too.
Yeah,
Hayward does. So they got future draft compensation, Aaron Nesmith, and a 2021 top 55 pick. They hope to trade for Miles Turner.
Still hoping to put together a trade for a center.
If you can get Miles Turner for Enes Kanter, that's a win.
I think now they can't sign and trade Hayward most likely.
Right.
I mean, Hayward turned down $34 million a year, so he must know that somebody's about to offer him the bag.
Yeah, they ought to get rid of Hayward though because his contract is just so expensive. The Nets, we talked about a bit. They also lost the 19th pick, and they lost Garrett Temple, and then they gained Joe Harris for a pretty expensive contract, but I'd say he's maybe earned that.
Yeah.
Landry Shamet, they got Bruce Brown, and then, like we said, they hope to trade for James Harden and Serge Ibaka.
Serge
Ibaka. The Charlotte Hornets lost really nothing, and they got LaMelo Ball. So they'll finally make a little bit of money.
And they're still maybe hoping to trade for Russell Westbrook.
Right. So if that happens, I mean, at the very least,
we got LaMelo Ball.
MJ. Right. Well, first of all, we can see the one-on-one.
Yeah.
Secondly, the Charlotte Hornets
might be entertaining.
Might make $3,000 a year net now, which is an upgrade from what they were making. Chicago Bulls didn't really lose anything, and they gained Garrett Temple and Patrick Williams.
With the 4th overall pick in the draft.
Right. Cool. They're still not a playoff team. Cool.
Yeah.
The Cavs didn't really lose anything, and they got Isaac Okoro,
also from the draft, yeah.
Right, and they hope to re-sign Tristan Thompson. They're a lost cause.
Yeah.
The Pacers didn't lose anything. They gained, they re-signed Justin Holiday, and they hope to sign Gordon Hayward, which I think would be a good fit with them as long as he's not too expensive.
Yeah, I agree.
The Heat, they lost Derek Jones Jr., but they re-signed Myers Leonard, they re-signed Goran Dragic, they re-signed Udonis Haslem, and they got Mo Harkless.
Pretty solid.
Whatever. They're still a finals contender.
Yeah.
I don't think that Derek Jones Jr. is that important to them. The Knicks, they lost Taj Gibson, Wayne Ellington, and Alfred Payton.
And then now they've also lost Bobby Portis.
Right, Bobby Portis. And they got Ed Davis, Alec Burks, and Obi Toppin. I mean, they got the 8th pick.
Yeah.
That's not
He's
that
good
bad.
at dunking.
He's good at dunking, right? If I'm a Knicks fan, I'm considering fleeing the country at this point.
That's pretty. They're not. Yeah.
Wow, that's just unbelievably painful for Knicks fans, I would guess. The Orlando Magic, we didn't really lose much. We got Dwayne Bacon.
Well, you lost DJ Augustine now.
Right,
That
yeah, we
dude's
lost
just
DJ Augustine. Re-signed James Ennis, re-signed Michael Carter-Williams.
That's pretty good.
No, he's not. And we hope to trade for Russell. No, we don't. And trade Evan Fournier. That one I can get behind.
Evan Fournier.
I'd like to
seems
get rid
he
of
wants
Evan
to get
Fournier.
go to a contender.
Right. Toronto Raptors. They lost Toronto and they gained Tampa Bay. It seems like they're going to be relocating at least temporarily. And they hope to re-sign Fred VanVleet and Serge Ibaka. I don't really know what their best option is, to be honest.
Yeah, just as long as they go into the next season looking like they do, they did last year. I think
Running
they're
it
still a
back,
good
I
team.
don't think they're really going to get anywhere, but I mean, whatever.
Could be solid.
Yeah. The Wizards, all they did was re-sign Davis Bertans. John Wall does want to be traded, though.
Yes.
As expressed. He definitely wants to get out of there. And I can't blame him, honestly. I don't even know if he's going to ever play.
Okay,
in
but the audacity of that guy to not play for 2 years and then
it's been more than 2. It's been like...
And
he
then-
played a little bit.
and then think he can come in here and be like,
And he's making
okay,
like $40
trade
million
me.
a year.
The fans, the organization has been so patient with him.
I know.
2 years, that massive contract. I'm exciting the dog with my loud voice.
Right.
Calm down. But the pain that these Wizards fans have dealt with, waiting for John Wall to be healthy, just for him to finally
not
be
to
healthy
mention,
and say, you know
like-
what, trade me for what, a bag of chips? He's so injury prone. He's the worst version of Westbrook possible.
Yeah, I agree. Let's wait for the dog to stop.
I'm sorry, Pearl. I didn't mean to excite you. She's done.
Okay. So,
Perhaps.
with John Wall, I mean, if John Wall's leaving and there's no hope of him coming back, I don't see Beal staying.
Yeah, I feel bad for Wizards.
I feel bad for
I mean,
Bradley
the
Beal. and I feel
top
bad for
6,
Wizards
7
fans.
in the East is going to be really solid, but every other team is going to be horrible.
Wow. Wizards fans just pain.
Yeah.
It's pain.
At least they got Denny Abihada from the draft who looked like a DJ when he did his
I
interview. He got
guess.
the hat on, the
Yeah.
glasses, and the winery.
These poor guys.
So, yeah, it's looking rough for the Wizards. It's looking rough for a lot of these Eastern Conference teams. The Western Conference definitely looks a lot stronger going into next season.
Yeah.
And I think we can call it there. That's about it. Hopefully
Yeah.
there were no more huge, massive deals done while we were recording. Shout out to Jack for coming along, and see you guys next time on the Debate Mates. I was wondering what would break first, your spirit or your body? Or your body.
Alright, we ready?
Yep.
Alright, let's get it.
Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome to the newest episode of the Debate Mates. I'm here with my co-host, Sir Jackson Cashwell. We got a lot to talk about today because free agency started, trade started. It's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the NBA right now. Remember to follow us on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, like, share, and comment. We're trying to get to 200 subs. We're about at 120 right now. And we promised last video we're going to do something huge if we get to 200. If we get to 200.
I feel like I need to redo that.
Oh yeah. Bro, what are you doing? You fool.
Pearl, no. Please. Stop walking out the piano. Just take her out and close that door. Please stop, Pearl. Stop. Okay, you ready to do this again?
I'm ready.
My body is ready. They won't get me going. It's okay.
Is it recording already?
Yeah, we're still going.
Okay. Oh, you never stop.
No.
We're
We
not
just cut it.